Welcome back, guys, to the channel. I appreciate everybody watching and listening to me rambling on. But if y'all could y'all please share and like these videos if y'all really liking them? And if there's anything else that I can change or do better, please comment below. I really much appreciate it. We're going to keep with the theme tonight. We're going to talk about another bait that I really like making. It's actually the one that got me into lure making. They're very simple to make. There's a lot that goes into them, but they're very simple to make to get them exactly right. So, and that is a jig. This is the jig that I make and sell. I absolutely love this jig. It's my favorite jig on the market. There's a lot that has gone into this particular bait. I've thrown jigs my whole life. I fished just about every jig you can think of. I catch a lot of fish on them. They're my confidence bait. They're also one of the most simple baits that you can make. And they're very easy. It's a low expense to get into it, besides the mold. Depending if you want to go from a do-it mold to like a Third Island CNC mold that you can get off of eBay. There's various price ranges. I highly recommend getting a Third Island CNC mold. They're a very, very good mold, a high quality mold. And I'm just not a fan of do-it molds, just because you can't get the hole wire to sit in them right sometimes, or it requires some kind of modifications to the mold itself. And eventually I do want to do some videos on mold modifications, because I have just a few molds that I've modified to do different aspects and different lures and everything else, and we can go into that in other videos. But when we're talking about jigs, probably the most important part in this jig is the hook that you put into it to get the action of the bait right. So like spinner baits, mostly the hook is due to like a profile that you want. Like a vibrating jig, the hook requires it gets the certain action that you want out of the bait. Same thing with a buzz bait. Certain hook, you get a certain action. And sometimes that particular mold, that's the only type of hooks they'll take, even after you modify them, to get the head to fully form and fully pour correctly. Personally, on a jig, I like a 4/0 hook. I don't like a big gaff hook that a lot of companies that produce, and a lot of people have stuck in their mind that that's what you need, a 5, 6. Some of them even have 7/0 hooks in them just to get that bigger profile. You really don't need that. Like, you can go to a bigger trailer or a bulkier skirt and still get the action out of your bait with that smaller hook and a bulkier profile. A lot of guys have it in their head that you need that bigger hook for the bulkier profile so they get it better. And yeah, that could be true to some extent, but 9 times out of 10, all that hook's gonna do is it's gonna make your jig roll one way or the other. And when you're pitching this jig into cover, like laydowns grass or around lily pad mats, stuff like that, or around a cypress tree, it's going through a lot of gnarly stuff. So you need the chances of that jig to land straight up in your favor as much as possible. And I got a jig here with a 5/0 in it, and if you can tell, let me get another one. I got one over here with a 4/0 too. So let's see here. So this is a 1/2 ounce with a 5/0, and this is a 1/2 ounce with a 4/0. You can tell the difference. Let me show you right here. That really shows the height difference. That's almost. So what it does is that 4/0, it gives you a little bit smaller gaff, but it pushes, because it's a shorter hook, it pushes all the weight forward, so it makes the bait more balanced, so it'll have a tendency to stand up a lot better. And the reason why you want your jig to stand up is because that fish can pin it against the bottom, and he can really get that hook and get it in the right place in his mouth. A lot of times they'll hook a fish with a jig in the side of the mouth or the bottom of the lip, or they'll skin hook it real deep in the throat. And the reason why that is because the fish can't really get it because of that big hook. And if you have a big hook, it's going to rip a big hole in its mouth, especially if you get it in a tender spot of its mouth. And so when it comes up, that fish will come up by the boat while you're playing it, and you have a tendency to lose those fish because you've ripped a hole the size of a silver dollar in that fish's mouth. So I'm just not a big fan of a big hook. We're not catching sharks, we're catching bass. Guys, you do not need a big hook. You want a heavy wire hook, yes, but you don't want a big gaff of a hook. And you just need a sharp point on it to get that hook in that fish's mouth. The main thing is that, like, you want the right action. That smaller hook, I'm a firm believer in it, that I can take both these jigs and I can take them down the bank, and I can trim this skirt just a little bit longer than what I usually do to get the same profile I want, and I'm still going to get more bites than this. And even in the test tank, like I've tested these, you can tell this one has a tendency to roll over. It does still stand up, don't get me wrong, but it rolls over more often than not than this one. And I want that bait to be able to sit in its correct position where that fish has the best opportunity to get that bait to actually hook him in a good spot. Because if you get him hooked in a good spot and you don't rip the hole in that fish's mouth, you're going to catch that fish. You will not lose that fish. And a lot of times, like, you don't even really have to set the hook with these jigs. You just have to reel into them. And guys, it's just, I can't emphasize enough, if you can get away with a 4/0 hook in your jig for like a 3/8, a half, or a 3/4. I mostly throw a 3/4 and a half. I'm getting to the point to where I'm throwing a 3/8 more, but I like it around docks or overhanging limbs. Anytime I'm doing kind of some roll and skip casting, just that little lighter weight helps you skip that bait a little bit better. Always hand tie your skirts. Like, I can't emphasize that enough either, because you will lose a fish or two if you put a rubber collar on there. Them fish will pull that skirt down, and it's not so much it's not so much the fish, it's a combination of the fish and you setting the hook. He might not have it just right, and that skirt will pull down and it'll block the barb from getting the hook right in, good penetration in the mouth on the fish. So I always hand tie my skirts. They also last a lot longer. I hand tie everything. I like hand tied skirts. I'm not a big fan of switching skirts back and forth. Now, when I'm tinkering with colors and trying to make sure, get something I have confidence in, yes. But once I got a few colors down that I like to throw, that's what I'm gonna stick with. Like, I fish what I call a Pines Perch color. It's like a green pumpkin and peanut butter and jelly with some blue and copper in it. That's a really good color. And then I throw black and blue and green pumpkin a lot. Those are about the only two colors I throw with a jig. I might throw a solid black every now and then. That's about it. Like, I keep it stupid simple, guys. But what you're gonna need is, you're gonna need you a good quality mold. You're gonna need you some base hole pins, and then you get you some good hooks. I like a Victory hook. I get them off Barlow's. This is just a 4/0 Victory. It's a 10-7 86 BN. It's a really, really good hook. Like, I've never had any trouble out of these hooks. I think they're made in America too. They're really, really good hooks. I get majority of my stuff off Barlow's. Like, you can get Do-It molds off Barlow's. Now, if you're wanting a little bit higher end mold, you'll have to go elsewhere. Just do your research. You can get them off eBay. Epic Bake molds. There's even some custom mold guys out there that can make you whatever you want. And it's pretty straightforward and simple on how to make these. And I'm getting my pot hot. I'm gonna take you through the process of pouring it. It's not much different than what happened with the chatterbait or the vibrating jigs and the buzz baits, and it's not much different on the tying process, what I'm going to be doing, or the painting process. It's just a little bit different components. It's pretty simple, straightforward. I highly suggest y'all get y'all a good mold, because you can modify it to take different hooks. So right here, this is a 1/4 ounce. It's my finesse jig. It has a 2/0 hook in it. I have some that I've made up with the 3/0, but I really like the 2/0 that's in it. And it's still a heavy wire hook, so it's not going to flex as much as like a regular thin wire finesse jig. And the reason why I wanted that is I like to throw bait casters. I'm not a big spinning rod guy, and I wanted something that gave me a little bit smaller profile, but Still performed like what I wanted it to perform, stand up pretty regular like it's supposed to. And I wanted that certain head design where it penetrates cover very well, it stands up very well. But I wanted that smaller profile. Now, like, this is like a 10% of the time that I'm going to pick this up and throw this, guys. It's not going to be very much of the year that I'm going to throw a finesse jig. Majority of the time, I'm going to have that 3/4 or 1/2 ounce in my hand, just because I like throwing a big bait and a big jig. I'm trying to catch bigger fish. But if you can get you a mold and modify it to where it'll take that smaller diameter hook, and it just, smaller profile, you'll get more bites, it'll be more enjoyable, and there is nothing better than catching some fish on something that you made. It's very, very exciting. It's almost addicting. I know that. I've dumped a lot of money into making my own stuff, guys, and it's so much cheaper. You get it the way you want it, and it's something that you cannot get in the store. And just like, if you're a tournament guy, I fish a lot of tournaments, it gives you a different level of confidence that, okay, this is what I know for a fact. Nobody else on the lake is throwing this particular bait right now. And it probably has nothing to do with fishing, because I'm sure any fish will bite anything if you get it in front of it. And like, but it's just a confidence thing, and it's all in your mind. So you got to do mind over matter. You got to do what makes you feel confident in your fishing. So, but once the pot gets hot, heated up, we're going to start the pouring process, and we'll just start the whole bait making process. Okay, so try to get y'all zoomed in here. So what you're going to need, this is what you call a base hole pin. They're pretty cheap, inefficient, or inexpensive. You can get the Teflon ones. The Teflon ones work very, very well. It's usually the ones that I use, but you gotta custom trim them. So this is a 4/0 Victory hook. It's a 1078 6 BN Victory hook. So this is a 4/0. We're gonna put our hook in. We're gonna make a 1/2 ounce. You can see in this particular mold, I got 4 slots. I got 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 3/4. We're gonna make a 1/2 ounce. We're gonna put our base hole pin in. We're also gonna get over here. We're gonna make a 3/8. We're gonna pour both of these at the same time. And you can see, you just take it and place your base hole pin in right there. What that does is that creates a hole for you to glue your weed guard in later on. So we're gonna put the 3/8 in there. We're gonna close this mold up tight. And we're gonna come over here to our pot. We're gonna pour 1, 2, and then we're gonna bust the mold loose. Looky there. So, as you can see, this one come out perfect. As you can see on the 3/8, the keeper didn't come out very well. And the reason why that is, and I did this on purpose, is this mold is cold. It's not preheated. So a lot of the times, I'll move y'all up here. A lot of the times when I pour, when I'm heating my pot up, I set my mold up top, and I'm preheating my mold. And when you preheat your mold on your, it's very important on your smaller sizes. So your mold is hot, so everything flows very well. It's not just a shock to everything. And I did that on purpose to show y'all that. And then you can tell on the 1/2 ounce, it's still poured perfect. And the reason why that is it's just a bigger head. The voids are a little bit bigger, so everything flows really, really well, regardless if the mold's hot or not. So what we'll do is we'll unplug our pot, and I'll bring y'all over to the tying station, and we're going to bust these spuds off. All right, guys. So here we are. We got our 1/2 ounce jig right here, and then we got our 3/8 here. I'm going to go ahead and clean this 3/8 up just so y'all can see it 2 different times to make sure everything comes out all right. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. I'll leave my weed guard in. It helps me hold it. And then you just take it and you just work it back and forth just like that. And then you get it going, and then you can twist it off. And it's right there. A lot of times too, if the mold's not made correctly and that pour spout isn't thin enough, there's a happy medium between it being too thick and too thin. And the reason why I say that is when you go to pull that spud off, sometimes you'll end up with a hole right here, especially if your lead heads are still hot, still a little warm, and you'll have a void in there, and then after that, the jig is no good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab it with a pair of pliers. I'm gonna take my other hand and grab that weed guard and the hook like this to keep myself from getting hooked. And I'm just gonna pull back and forth and twist. See how that one had a hole in it? There was a void in it. And that's what you do not want to happen. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna file it down. I'll get my file over here. So during production, what I'll use is a die grinder with a sanding pad, or you can get these little Dremel burr bits. You can get you a little Dremel burr bit, like a barrel. I can find it here in my bucket of mess, and I'll show y'all. Or no, I didn't. I had it over here in this thing. That's where I had it. My little Dremel tool set. So I really like this. This is just a little barrel burr bit that you can get from like Lowe's, Home Depot, anything to go in that Dremel tool. It speeds up this process tremendously. I can do like 200 jigs in like 30 minutes with that little tool. But today we're just going to use a file. All this is a hook file from I guess probably Bass Pro. I've had this thing for years, and I just put it on there. I run it back and forth over the top of that file until I start getting my spot cleaned up. Then you just file the edges down just like that. And now, this is where your Teflon base hole pins come in. When you go to paint your jig, you can use these base hole pins to paint it, but with them being metal, when you heat this jig up to powder coat it, your powder coat will stick to that metal base hole pin. And then, as you can tell through experience, if you can see where that weed or that base hole pin slot is, you see that black stuff right there? That's from my base hole pins having powder paint on them, because it's almost impossible to get that powder paint off of your base hole pins. So that's why I went to the Teflon pins. If you go strictly to the Teflon pins, like, you can pour with them and you can leave them in there, leave them in the heads, and then you can go ahead and paint them later and then pull them out. I have a bunch of these. I just don't know where they are at the moment. So, but you'll have to trim these base hole pins to fit your mold. Especially if you get like a Third Island CNC mold, they strictly take these style of base hole pins. Their base hole pins are even shorter than what you can get off Do It. So either way, like, to get a bunch of base hole pins to go in that mold, you're gonna have to trim if you go with the Teflon or the metal ones. And the reason why it's important that you gotta have something in here when you go to powder coat it, if you don't have that base hole pin in it when you go to powder coat it, you will not get your weed guard in it. It'll fill that hole up full of powder paint. And the way I do to get them out is I just grab them with a pair of pliers and I twist back and forth until it comes out. And then you can take your other base hole pin and stick it in. That's the reason why I like these Teflons, period. If you're gonna spend the money, just go ahead and get some Teflon ones, because it saves that step right there. And when you're making a bunch of them at one sitting, saving one little step saves you a lot of time. And then what we're gonna do here, since this is a custom job, we're gonna do something a little special. I usually powder coat all my heads black, but just for y'all, I'm going to do it in Fire Crawl. So I buy ProTech powder paint. I get it from Barlow's. It's really good stuff. I get it by the pound. Most of the time, like on my other videos, you see me where I use my spoon for the spinner baits. I spoon it on because I'm not a big fan of fluid baits. But regardless if I spoon it on or I use the dip method that I'm fixing to show y'all for the jigs, you still got to get in here. You got to mix this powder paint up and get it real nice and fluffy. And as you're doing a bunch of them, like if you're doing hundreds of them at a time, about every 10 or 15 jigs, you'll have to refluff your powder paint up, because if you don't, it's gonna cake on there. You're gonna have an uneven layer and it's just not gonna look very nice. So I'm gonna scoot y'all back so y'all can see just a little, move y'all down so you can see a little bit better. So what I'll do is I'll grab my jig with my needle nose just like that, and I'll take my blowtorch, okay, turn it on, and I'll just heat it up about that much. It does not take much, and then you just dip it in there and knock it all off. And now you got a fire crawl jig head. And then now what it'll do, it will go into the oven at, well, you can do it up to like 425, but I usually do around 400. Like I have mine set at between 410 and 350 of my toaster oven. And you're gonna want to bake it for at a minimum of 30 minutes. If you don't get the baking part right and you don't bake it correctly, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have, later on when you're fishing this bait, it's gonna chip. The paint's gonna chip really, really easily, and which it's probably no big deal for me. Like I could care less. I don't think a fish is going to be paying attention if that bait has a chipped head or not. But to produce a better product, it's really nice, especially if you're having to spend money on them. Like it's really nice to have something that's not going to do that. So when this thing gets out of the oven, I'm going to show y'all the time process and show y'all a little secret to help with the longevity of your paint. I'll see y'all when they get out. All right, guys. So this is what I was talking about on the cakeage. We got our jig out of the oven, and if you can tell, you see that eye right there. When it went into the oven, it was fully open, like it wasn't caked up or anything. But during the heating process, I put too much powder paint on this jig, so it caked the eye. I'm gonna show y'all how to fix this. So you don't have to throw this jig away. What you're gonna need is your butane torch, and not to drop your jig on the floor. Now, I wouldn't sell, once I do this, like the finish isn't perfect, but it's where you can use it. I wouldn't personally sell these like it. So if these happen like this, which it doesn't happen very often, but when they do, these are the jigs that I fish with. I just throw them in my box. It doesn't hinder the action of the jig or anything. It's just aesthetics. So what you'll do is you'll get you a piece of spinnerbait wire, and you get your butane torch, and you turn it on, and you heat your, see how hot that is? You get it about that hot, and then you just run it through there. Get it hot again. And you just run it through there. And what you're doing is you're just burning a hole in it. You do it a couple times. It'll melt that paint off of it for you so you can get your line in there. So you see now you got you a hole in there, if you can see that. Got that hole in there. Now it's not as pretty as if it didn't have that in it, but it is what it is. It'll be perfectly fine for just a homemade jig. So as I do on all my baits, go get you some Sally Hansen's double duty fingernail polish clear. Get it from the dollar store, Walmart. Your wife, your grandmother, your daughters, your sisters, any woman probably has this. And all you do is you do a top coat over it. This really shines your jig heads up, and it just adds an additional layer of protection to keep your paint from chipping when you're fishing with it. Now it still will wear through once, like when you get to like around rocks or something like that, gravel. I haven't figured out how to keep it from doing that, but it still will chip a little bit doing that process. So we're gonna wait for the fingernail polish to dry. And in the meantime, we're gonna get our skirting box out. So I buy my skirting from siliconetabs.com, and I got these Ozarka Trail boxes from Walmart when they were on sale for like 50 cents. Each one of these slots will hold 100 tabs. I buy everything from 100 tabs to 500 tabs at a time. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make, since that has that red head, we're gonna make what I call the spring crawl color. And you're gonna need 1 full tab of red bait fish. It's just a red and black. It's gonna be your good back color. Looks like it got some scales. You're gonna need a 1/2 tab of hot orange. That's a natural edge color. And then you're gonna need a 1/2 tab of red with red flake. That's just a standard, like if you look at it on the website, siliconetabs.com, it's gonna be red with red flake. It's gonna be in the standard tab category. And then you're gonna get a 1/2 tab of just straight black. And that's gonna be in the standard tab category also. And if you add all that up, that's gonna add up to 2.5 tabs. That's your perfect skirt count. That's what you want, is 2.5 tabs. So this should be pretty close to dry. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this in our vise. We're gonna take our bobbin, and I tie all my, let me get the box over here. I tie all my baits with 6-pound test spider wire. Whenever it goes on sale at Walmart, Academy, Bass Pro, anywhere like that, that's what I use. And the reason why is the braid, I can get my skirting really, really tight to where it doesn't cut the skirting, but you still get a good flare and a puff out of your jig. And the wire, a lot of people use wire, and if you get it too tight, it'll cut your skirting. But there's a happy medium between too tight and not tight enough, and it's really hard to do it with this the tie wire. And some people even use heavy denier. The problem with the heavy denier is it breaks. I get mine so tight that it will literally break that heavy denier, and it just does not hold up for what I want to use it for. So what I'll do is I'll start my thread count on my jig. I'll start, the way I'm gonna stack these, I'm gonna move y'all down. Now, on like a spinnerbait or a buzzbait, I would stagger these. So the orange would be on bottom, the red with red flake would go on next on top, and then the black would go on the sides. I would put that on the sides, and then the red bait fish would go on top to be like the back and the scale pattern. But since we're doing a jig, we're just gonna do a twist pattern. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the red with red flakes, or the red bait fish on bottom. Then we're gonna put the red with, or the black on top of it. Then the red with red flakes on top of it. Then we're gonna put the orange on. And with them being stacked, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the tabs like that, grab this other end, go around our braid. We're gonna fold it directly in half where it's like that. Then we're gonna run it up. That first edge is gonna go right on the back of the jig. And then we're gonna almost twist with both hands and our line and get it wrapped all the way around it. And then I'll maneuver the skirting around to where I get one full wrap. Then we'll take our alligator clip and I'll come over here and I'll clip that skirting, and I'll try to hold this side with my hand. And what I'll do is I'll start going around it. I'll do loose wraps first, about 8 or 9 loose wraps, and then I'll pull it like I'm putting a lot of pressure. I'm holding this jig in the vise pretty much. I'm putting so much pressure. And then I'll do a few more wraps. I'll tighten it again. And then I'll start my knot. I'll pull a big, long section of slack, go around my hand, go 3 twists around the jig, up and through, and knot. And I'll do it again. A lot of people do not do this style of knot, but I can tell you right now, I've never had this knot break, and you will have to literally cut this skirt and ruin the entire skirt to get it off. You cannot, it's there. It's never coming off ever again. I don't put any kind of sealant. You'll see guys put sealant around it, and what they'll do, they'll discolorate your skirting a little bit, and it'll make it where all the skirting kind of sticks together. I'm not doing that. That knot's not gonna break, and it's stuck there. It's never coming off ever again. And then what I'll do is I'll take the jig out of the vise, and I'll feather everything down. I'll put my alligator clip back on. I'll lay that down. We're gonna get our F30 weed guards. This is an 1/8 inch weed, 1/8 inch in diameter weed guard, and it's a 24 strand. I like a 24 strand because they compress really good. They're really thin. To me, I don't like a 20 strand or a lower strand count in my weed guard just because of the compression on it. You'll take your Gorilla Glue or Loctite. This is the gel form. It doesn't matter. Both of them work just about the same. You'll put you a little drop on the top, and you just fill that thing up. And you'll go right in here to the hole there, and you'll put that weed guard in, and you'll hold it. And you'll notice, you see how the weed guard's off-centered? What you'll have to do is you'll have to come in and you'll have to straighten that weed guard up a lot of times. Just like that. Now it's in there. So while that's drying, what we can do is trim our skirting now. So the way you trim your skirt is all your personal preference, or like, am I wanting a bigger profile or am I wanting a smaller profile? How do I want that to achieve that? But for me personally, I have a standard length that I cut. I cut it 1/4 inch behind the hook, and that gives you the perfect action and perfect fluff on the jig. And see, this is a full silicone skirt. And you see how fluffy it is? A lot of the times, you can get a little bit more fluff out of the living rubber and get a little bit better action, but it's really hard to find really good living rubber skirting. If you do want to use the actual rubber skirting, you can get it off of spankerjigs.com. They have the rubber tabs. Hands down, the best skirting that I've found that's actual rubber. It has the perfect strand count. They're easy to use. They're a little bit higher than buying the big rolls of rubber, but it's well worth the money. Now on your weed guard, when I go to trim my weed guard, I'm going to trim it about 1/4 inch from the top of this hook, and I'm going to trim it parallel with the hook, so it's going to have a little bit of an angle on it. And then you're ready to go. That's the perfect jig. It compresses really good, as you can see, really good compression on it. And guys, that's a good looking jig. It's a perfect jig in my book. I love them. I absolutely love them. So anyways, guys, I really appreciate y'all watching. Please like, subscribe, share this video. We're trying to grow the channel. If there's anything special that y'all want me to do, like trying different colors or something I can do for y'all to make it more entertaining for y'all to watch, please let me know in the comment section below. I'm just out here, I'm trying to help people and just trying to teach people how to make their own baits, guys. It's really not that hard, and as expensive as stuff is nowadays, it's really a small investment can save you a lot of money in the long run. And like, it's super easy. It just takes a little bit of time to do it. And I really appreciate y'all watching. I hope everybody learned something, and I'll see y'all in the next one, guys. Thank y'all.